Today on the channel we'll have our first of what will be many guide videos for Last Epoch. We're going to start off with a very simple video here, but I have played the game for over 1600 hours since it was released in Kickstarter, so going forward I will look to release more complex guides. Let me know in the comments below actually what kind of guides you would like to see, but for the purpose of today's video, as mentioned, it's going to be a pretty simple video. Today we're going to cover the top 10 things I wish I knew when I started the game. Now before we go in and we start breaking them down, if the video is helpful, please take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button. But let's go in and let's start breaking this all down now. We'll start off here with something that actually comes up as a question in chat fairly often, and quite a few of the tips we cover in today will actually be areas that come up in chat on a regular basis. Now when you are playing the game you will have a ton of loot that drops. It will be your basic loot, your rare loot, your magic loot. Now your first impulse when this actually happens is to pick it all up and then teleport back to your base and actually sell it. Now you don't want to do that at all. The reason being, if we bring up a piece of gear here, you can see the value of this gear is actually only 31 gold it sells for. So your gear does not sell for a lot of gold at all. That doesn't mean that you'll be gold starved in the game, but what happens instead is the gold drops that you automatically pick up while you're playing the game, they will give you a much larger value than you would get from actually selling gear. So this thankfully takes away the playstyle where you're just constantly picking up gear and teleporting back to your base. So don't pick up every piece of gear you see and don't go sell it to the vendor, but make sure you're picking up all your gold when it does actually drop. This next tip we have here is a pretty simple one, but when playing the game I've actually seen some people mention in chat that you have your shards that drop, and these will drop often. These are used for crafting. Now you can see I do have an absolute ton of them, but I've seen some people in chat that have actually been transferring these into their stash. Now you don't need to do that, it would be massively time consuming. What you want to do instead is you've got your button here, transfer crafting items. It does sound pretty obvious, but I have seen people that's missed this. So if we click on this there we go, and they're all there. You can see I've got a ton of crafting items, over 35,000, and if we click on materials we've got all the different shards that are available there. So simple tip, but again something that I have seen come up, and some new players have fell into that trap of thinking that they have to manually move all of these over to your stash. Instead you've got your one button, one click, and that's them all away for you. On the subject of crafting and runes, one of the most important runes you get in the game is known as the runes of shattering. Now these will drop out in the wild, but you can actually buy them from vendors as well. When you go to a vendor they will have typically between about 2 to 5 of these, so every time you go to a vendor and you see these you want to pick them up. They are exceptionally important. Also, if you are running low on these, what you can actually do is port from one town to the other, and when you actually port it will refresh the inventory in the shop. So you can do this, let's say you're running low on your runes and shattering. If you do this in probably about a 20-minute period or so, you'll be able to pick up 100 or more of them. The next tip I have here is in regards to idols. You will unlock the ability to equip idols as you're working your way through the different quests in the story. Now idols come in various different shapes and sizes. You can see we've got one here, and you can see we've got one here as well. Now a particular idol type that I always pick up, and I've got a stash tab full of them, is the 1x1, these ones here, and they're for resistance. Now the resistance on these, I believe it goes from 3% up to 8%. The 8% ones are pretty rare. So what I do whenever any of these drop, if it's over 5% resistance, regardless of the resistance type, I'll pick it up and I'll put it into this particular stash. And I've actually got a loot filter rule set up for this as well, so when an idol drops, if it's in caps lock then I know it's one of these, so I know I can go straight in and I can pick it up. Now the great thing about these is we move this over here, you can see this is only taking up one slot here, and it's offering us 7% physical resistance. You have all the different resistance types in the game that will be available in these. So if you're working your way through the story, you're working your way through monos, you come across a certain boss that's doing a particular damage type and your resistance on it is really low, you just want to equip some of these into the spare spaces you've got. You can see there's enough spaces that if you wanted you could actually go from 0 resistance in a particular damage type all the way up to the cap of 75 using these. So always pick these up when you come across them and stick them in one of your stash tabs. The next bit of advice here I would give then for Last Epoch, and this really is one of the strengths of the game, is that you can feel free to experiment. Some games Diablo 4, for example, will really quite punish you if you're looking to change builds. Now, that's not the case in Last Epoch at all. The only thing that is permanent on your character is your mastery class. You pick this around about level 16 or so. After that, you can make changes to your character really easily, and I'll show you how it would work here, for example. So at the moment, we've got the Flame Rush skill, and we've got that slotted in, we've got some points in it. If I actually click on respec here and then despecialize skill, what we can do is we're no longer using this skill, so we can drop a different skill into this slot. So let's, for example, go for Glacier. Now you can see the number 10 is next to this. This is because the level that I'm currently sitting at the moment, when I respec into that particular skill, you can put 20 skill points into it total, but when I first respec into it, it's given me 10 points straight away. So straight away, if I wanted, there we go, I could put various different points in it. Or once again, let's go for respec, despecialize, let's change, and let's go for Mana Strike. We want to use that, and there we are. Once again, we can put a decent amount of points in that straight away. The remaining points we'll get as we level up until we get it up to 20 there. But there we go. So without a doubt, make sure to experiment, because the game's fun when you do that, and it doesn't punish you for experimenting either. A moment ago then we talked about your mastery class and how that's the only thing in the game that is actually permanent. Now, a few times in chat I've seen people have their mind completely blown by this, but if we look at the mastery class I've got selected at the moment, you can see I can go all the way to the end of the tree. Now, despite the fact that the mastery for my mage class in this instance is Rune Master, I can still put points into the other two mastery classes, so that's Sorcerer and Spellblade. You'll be able to put them up to the point where you actually see the chain there, and what that means as well, as you can see, you've actually got some skills down the bottom here, so even if you don't spec as a Sorcerer, you still have access to Static Orb and Ice Barrage should you put points into that mastery. The same applies for Flame Reave and also Enchant Weapon that's available as well. Then generally with most of the builds you run, you will want to dump most of your points, if not the majority of your points, into your mastery class, but there'll be some other areas as well where you can get some nice bonuses from your non-mastery class. In this instance, you can see I'm putting as many as 25 points into the Sorcerer here. The next bit of advice I have here for new players is how you can actually expand the tooltips and gear, and there's a ton of interesting and useful information in here. So at the moment on the gear piece I've got a set of gloves. You can see I've got freeze rate multiplier, I've got increased cast speed, critical strike avoidance, and a chance to shred armour on hit. Now, is that a good roll range I've actually got? If we hold down the Alt key, you can see it will actually tell you here the minimum and maximum range. So you can see, let's just say for the critical strike avoidance, for example, that can go between 46 to 60%. So I'm definitely on the lower side there. So you can use the Alt key to check that. If you hold down the Control key at the same time, what you actually get is you get a breakdown of what each of those modifiers actually mean. So we'll just read top ones, for example. You can see for armour, it's telling you specifically that armour reduces the damage you take from all hits, but not damage over time, and it's more effective against physical damage. That's something that you wouldn't know if you didn't expand the tooltip, so the amount of information in here is really pretty amazing. We've got a little breakdown on endurance as well. So this reduces damage dealt to your health below your endurance threshold. This is capped at 60%, and then you can see we've got the various different affixes that have their explanation as well. So if you're really wanting to get in depth and make the most of your gear and make sure you've got the best affixes, then you need to know what the affix is doing in the first instance. So you've got the Alt key, as mentioned, will show you the range. Hold down the Control key at the same time, and then you'll get the description as well. The next bit of advice that I give here is one that I honestly give a little bit reluctantly, because I feel in the long run this may actually harm people watching my videos because they won't need to watch them due to this. But if you press the G key when you're in game, it brings up an in-game guide. This is the best in-game guide I've actually seen in any game. If I just scroll down here to show you all the different sections that are available, it's really pretty amazing. You've got a search button at the top as well. Here we'll actually show how this would work. So let's say, for example, we were looking for your frost style ailment, what that would actually do. So you type frost at the top there, you can see it brings up the ailment of frostbite. We click on this and it breaks it all down, and that is essentially there for just about anything in-game that you're actually looking for. Another good one, for example, we see that people ask about quite a lot is crafting your legendary items. How do you actually do it? Here is a full breakdown how you do it. Now you can actually link these specific pages within the game chat when someone asks as well. It's really pretty amazing. So once again, that's just the G key you would use for that. But despite the fact this is really good, please still do watch the videos I put out as well. This next tip we have here is in regards to the endgame system that's available at the moment. This is the monoliths. Now they come in two flavours. You've got your regular monoliths and then you've got your empowered ones. The goal is to get to your empowered ones as quickly as you possibly can. Now in order to do that, what you want to do is you need to work your way through different monolith timelines. Now the ones you want to work your way through are the ones on the right hand side. The reason being the blessings, which is a bonus that these actually make available for your character. All the right hand side monoliths, they actually have a bonus that will affect your character. The left hand side monoliths will have a bonus that will just affect drop rate on certain weapon types, for example. So you want to go from Fall of the Outcasts to the Black Sun, End in the Storm, Reign of the Dragons. Once you get to there will be 3 level 90 monoliths. That's Spirits of Fire, the Last Ruin and the Age of Winter. Once you complete all 3 of them, you go to the centre here and this will unlock your empowered monoliths. Now when you have your empowered monoliths, you want to build up the corruption within them. I'll do a more in-depth video at a later date talking about how you do it, but you want to build up your corruption within these and get it to a minimum of 200 corruption. At that point, anything that's not a drop that can only drop from a specific area or a specific boss, for example, will then be able to drop 200 corruption as your threshold for some of your higher level drops within the game for them to start dropping. On top of that as well, the choice of different blessings that you get available once you get to 200 corruption, you can choose from 1 of 5 different blessings. Normally it's only 3 or 4 blessings you have available to you to actually pick from. So if you can pick from 5, you're more likely to have one that will actually suit. So the final bit of advice I'll actually give here is in regards to the fact that the game is on version 0.9.2. We've got version 1.0, the full release, coming later on in the year. Now, despite that, there will not be a wipe for any characters you actually level online this now. So you can go in, you can start leveling up your characters, getting used to the game. When 1.0 hits, those characters will still be available. Now, the game is going to run cycles, which is essentially seasons, something like what Diablo 4 runs. So when the game comes out, I believe at 1.0, we will have a fresh cycle that will start, but all your characters that you've played previously, and I've got a ton of characters myself that I've leveled up, but all those characters and all the loot they actually have with them will be saved. So if you're watching these videos thinking this game looks really good, I'm getting pretty excited for this, but it's another few months until it comes out, you can actually dive in now and you can start playing it and you'll be able to save your progress with it as well. So with that, that's some tips to get you started off on Last Epoch. If the video's been helpful, please do take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button, and let me know in the comments below what other guide videos you would like to see in the channel. And thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.